Do what you
Oh,
want
I
to
say,
do.
just-
Do what you want to do, bro. I'm chilling.
Copy. It's like
They all know we bros. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
Yeah,
They know we bros.
Yeah, I think so. You captured everything you did. Like, you want an introduction?
So what we rolling with that. We rolling with that. So yo, welcome back. We're here with it again. Coming at you with another question of the day. The Brody is back. Y'all know,
Yes, sir.
I know who we work with.
Yes,
My
sir.
Brody B is here as well. And we're gonna dive right in. We kind of explored the question a lot off camera. We kind of got into the
We call it B said the podcast before
the podcast before the
so
podcast.
You getting part 2.
Mhm.
Yeah, what is it? The
Part
calm
two.
before the storm.
Part 2.
Yeah.
We explored it a lot. I mean, we still have a lot to cover, but it's going to be fun. We are very excited for it. We had to contain a lot of what we were saying to keep it for the camera and keep it for you guys. So we're going to dive right in and pick up where we left off. So the question of the day, and it's kind of a two-part question, I would say. The question of the day is, how would humanity operate in a state of nature? State of nature referring to separate from government and state. And I feel like that ties into, is humanity naturally good or naturally evil? So I always say it's a two-part question because the answer to the question relates into whether we believe humanity is naturally good or naturally evil. So I'll say it's that two-part question. And let's dive right in, man. One of y'all could start it off and we'll jump right in.
So I want to hear the way B worded it again.
Okay.
Like the baby's coming out the womb.
Right.
When you
Okay,
said it, the way
okay,
you said it
okay.
like that, I was like, all right, I gotta build off of that one.
Yeah,
Just so.
Yeah, so like I was saying, like I feel like we all, why do we think that babies come out the womb not at peace? Like why aren't they come out crying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They come out crying, they come out hysterical. You have to calm them down. You know what I'm saying? And if they were left, I feel like what we were saying, you have to be taught to be good. So like we are naturally as human beings. Evil is a strong word, but you have to, you know what I mean? We gravitate naturally towards our
negativity.
we call it our human nature, and that's the negativity. You know what I'm saying? We say that's human nature.
Yeah.
And to be your best self is to, you have your human nature side, and then you always have a choice. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like if we were just all in nature with no real rules or laws or anything, it would just be utter chaos because that baby never grew up. You know what I'm saying? Essentially. You know what I mean? And you grow up, but you don't learn anything other than that.
Yeah.
So if you have no guidance, which what we were saying, all human beings need guidance at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it's just free reign, it would be utter chaos. It just would not.
So we need the
work.
societal condition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I know you wanted to build off that thought.
Well, I was just saying the thought that I had shared with you that we do things that just are inherently, we're going to use the word evil for this. Like what I said to you earlier, like we'll watch ants just going about their own business and just
It's the cool thing to do.
Bro, some of us practice our hunting by shooting birds in the sky. You just think about how evil that is essentially. Like the bird is just flying. There's no reason for us to kill this bird. It's not like we're consuming the bird or anything like that.
Yeah.
It is strictly just targeting.
Yeah.
Target
Target.
So it's so crazy. Yeah.
You know, so they shoot a moving bird as it's floating through the sky.
Right.
Bro, it's just, and no other animal just does these kind of things. Like they don't just kill to kill. Like I like how it was worded to me before. When another animal kills, it's because it's not for the fact of trying to kill. They're trying to eat. They're trying to just survive. You know, and I have to consume you. That's why a lion. Sometimes deers and them can walk right past a lion. The lion's just sitting there because I'm not bothered by you. I have to eat, and the way I'm a carnivore, so I have to eat you. That's just the byproduct. But I'm not inherent. You don't just see them smack around.
Right.
You know, smack around here real quick. Like, yeah, you little stupid. Like, I'll eat you now, right?
Yeah.
But we'll do stuff like we'll just shoot birds for target practice, or we'll just step on things, or I like how B said, like, we have to be taught to share. You know, to say, no, that's not what you do. No, you don't just hit random people. You don't get to just do whatever you want, because a lot of I feel like that we trying to do whatever we want. We're greedy. We're full of pride, and I think most of it has to go down to we have egos as human beings, and that is, people say there's pros and cons to it. But that's a huge source of why I think we go towards this evil side. And that's why we say that's human nature, is that ego, bro. It's just that pride and just, man, we've been using other creatures since the end of time, bro. I don't even...
100%.
Yeah. So are you subscribing to there would be chaos as well?
Oh, I definitely think there would be chaos.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
And
No question.
We were before in the pre-podcast.
We were
talking about we were building off of Reef's last episode, which you guys should definitely go watch. Our dog Slaves.
Yeah.
And I had come into the crib and I was like, yo, I was just watching your video. And I was like, it got me thinking off the logic of that. Are all children slaves? Again, slave, that's a really strong word. But just, are we slaves to your parents at some point? You know what I mean? Like, because at some point, you are reliant on them. They were talking about how dogs are reliant to their owners, and we are reliant to a certain age to our parents. And it's like we built off that. And I was saying, like, at some point, it sounds really bad, but all humans need some type of control. You know what I mean? From something. You know what I mean? Yeah. At some point, you know what I mean? Otherwise, it would just be running rampant. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, just all connected.
Yeah,
we see that in Parable of the Sower, Parable of the Talents.
Oh,
you get a little taste of that.
Yeah.
When there's no rules, it's just some of the stuff I was reading. I'm like, bro, I was sitting there like, yo, we are sick.
Yeah.
Think about a lot of the things we've done. If you even look back at history, to be able to do the things that we've done in our history, right?
You'd call it inhumane.
And it was so
sinister.
We did it multiple times. In history, even when you think about just war, like how we just blow up community. These are innocent people. We just you're a byproduct, bro. You know, it's just like a lot of the things when I look back at history, I'm like, bro, we are sick. Like, and we're just very destructive by nature. I don't know if we mean to do it or not, but we are just destructive. I read the article, that's what I was getting into. They call us super predators because we're not ordinary predators. It said we are super predators because not only are we destroying species and populations, we wipe out habitats, environments. Like we can set a nuke and destroy this whole planet. Like we are just I don't know why, but we're just destructive. Like though we advance, it's at the demise of the environment, other species, the earth. Like everything is being destroyed while we're gaining, and I think that is very evil. Because if you were looking more towards the good side of it, right? You would consider, this goes back, I think we had this talk, you would consider the other side, what happens to the other side if I'm doing something. But we just destroy it. It's with no regard to like anything.
And it's like, man, what were we saying in the pre-pod?
I'm trying to get everything back.
We were saying a lot.
A lot. But I was saying how if it's like how we need control, and it's like we already have like a controlled society, right?
Yes.
And yet we're still destroying things.
Yes.
We're destroying the environment, and we have control. Like we have a government, we have systems, and we're still destroying the planet
because there's nothing to control us.
Exactly. And imagine if there truly, and we think
there was
there
no,
is, but if there was nothing,
Yeah.
we would have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So we need the laws, we need the regulations, we need
Mm-hmm.
we need government essentially to save us from ourselves.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
Bro,
it's tough because this is a big.
Yeah.
it's like you were
big
saying,
philosophy.
even with your thoughts
Yeah.
that you have just walking down the street.
Oh yeah, so I
Your
was
thoughts,
saying,
they just pop up in your head.
I can definitely subscribe to the fact that we are, and let's throw the disclaimer like we did with the slaves. Like
Yeah.
evil, it's a very dense word, but we're just using it to just draw more attention to it.
We're using evil, but you can change it
You
to
can
any
change the
word
word
you
that
want to
fits
use.
Right.
good or bad. Let's say bad instead of evil. You know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Good or bad
the
is
case may be,
subjective,
but we're
whatever.
gonna use evil here. Just quick
Whatever.
little disclaimer.
Right.
And I was
Don't matter.
saying,
No.
yeah, it doesn't matter. Whatever floats your boat. But I was saying, like, I can subscribe and I can see why, you know, Omar and B will say, yo, like, we're naturally evil because I have evil thoughts, right? And I'm not saying
I
evil.
think you have evil thoughts sometimes.
I'm not saying evil.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not saying evil thoughts and like I'm gonna
Right.
shoot up, you know, people on the
Right.
street. Nothing like that.
Right.
But like, let's say Omar happens to be passing by me in the hallway. I was just like, yo, what if I just tripped him or what if I just punched him in his face? Just random thoughts, and it's not like it's like my
the devil on the
subconscious.
shoulder.
Yeah, it's like the devil on the shoulder, and I'm like, nah, bro, you gotta chill.
Right.
Right. I gave the
That's what D was alluding to.
yeah, I gave the
It's
example.
that choice.
It's just choice. You have to be taught to be good. I think about parents teaching their children to speak to the person on the elevator, hold the door for the elderly. But this is stuff we wouldn't have the natural inclination to do without somebody driving our actions. We are taught as kids. If I just walk up to Omar on the playground and kick him in the dirt, we go, no, you can't do that.
Right.
Like, that's not what you do, you know? So we are constantly taught to be good. But I have to look at our compassionate side as well, because I do think a lot of us are naturally compassionate. There are that percentage of the population that are great people, but does the bad outweigh the good? And like we've seen throughout human history, a lot of times the negative has kind of outweighed the positives, but I think we've always come back. I think there would be some form of chaos, but I think human society would find its way back to where we are now. Because that's what we're going to do. Like, we think about Parable of the Sower or an apocalypse. Like, you end up creating a group, right? You instill values in that group, whether that's religion and things like that. And then eventually that group expands and that essentially becomes state, essentially becomes government. So I think we could go that route. It's tough, man. I don't want to say hard we're evil by nature, but a lot of times, in my case, I've been still learning how to be a good person. Like, it reminds me of The Good Place. I don't know if you watched The Good Place, but it's some philosophical show. Great show. I just got put onto it. But it's like, you have to learn to be good. And it starts getting into ethics. Well, what's the guidelines for being a good person? How do we measure that? But it's like a lot of us have to be taught how to be good because naturally we do want to preserve ourselves and we are intrinsically selfish. So a lot of times we're only looking out for our own benefit.
But,
so it's tough. But then again, we could be evil because that's where we took the debate towards Ultron.
Right, exactly.
Remember, like, for those of you who don't know, Ultron was
Second
one of the
Avengers movie. Avengers Age of Ultron.
maybe some spoilers here.
If you
Don't
haven't
watch
seen the movie
past
yet.
this point if you haven't seen it. Don't watch past this point if you haven't seen it. But Ultron is a villain in the Marvel Universe created by humans, created by Tony Stark. And his primary drive was to save the Earth, save humanity. And what does Ultron do? He
realizes he goes through all of human history ever in a matter of 10 seconds and determines that to save the world, his mission is to save the world, right? I'm looking at human history, and humans are the one destroying it, so I need to destroy the humans, which we all know is wrong, but at the same time, he kind of has a point, you know what I mean? Like, in a sick way, he kind of has a point, you know what I mean?
He does, because all the events that happened, he looked at the Avengers, and he's like, yo, y'all are bringing out a lot of the destruction. If I go through each of your individual paths, you guys have done something that has caused a harmful domino effect to the Earth. So if I get rid of you, do I win? Like, do I save the Earth? I think that's what you designed me to do, so I'm going to do it. I look at Thanos, right? Another reason I think I would subscribe to chaos happening, ensuing, if we didn't have government and state, is because what did Thanos say? There's
Mhm.
too many of us.
Mm-hmm.
Resources are scarce. I gotta get rid of some. Like, you know, and that's how it is. We're gonna hoard, bro.
Right.
There's too many of us, and so that's another way. I'm like, okay, I do think, you know, if we were completely free on our own, there would be chaos because there's too many of us. Just resources are finite, and we're all gonna be trying to get, you know, what's ours as much as we can possibly get.
Right. And at the same time, I was thinking about it in the point before. Can you be good without the presence of evil? You need,
you need it. Yeah.
You need evil or bad in order to be good.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a choice. If there's no good, or I mean, if there's no evil, it's like we're robots. It's like you need that. The world, it's crazy, but like
So
there has to be good and evil. You know
it's
what
crazy.
I mean?
That's a fantastic thought. Never thought of it that way. And I'm going to take it in a bit of a different direction, but would God have much of a following and a presence without the devil? Is that kind of along the lines where you're going?
Run that back.
Would God have as much of a presence if there was no devil? Back to your good and evil.
Back to your good and evil.
Would there be a God if there wasn't a devil?
Yeah. Like, would we subscribe to God the way we do in society if the devil didn't exist?
I think there would be. Ooh, that's deep.
That's tough, bro.
But I think it not specifically the devil. I think it relates to evil more. Evil. The devil is the ultimate evil.
Yeah.
But he still had, at one point, he was good. He was good at one point. He was not the devil. He wasn't created the devil. He fell. He's a fallen angel. So
that's true.
I think the presence of the choice is the important part. The free will, if you will.
So then do we start good and then get turned out to be evil? Or is it just case by case?
I am of the subscriber of the evil.
We start evil and
I
then turn
do.
good?
Man, it's deep.
It is tough,
I think
bro.
there's a presence of both.
Yeah.
But I think the evil outweighs it. I think you're drawn towards that naturally. But I think there is a presence of both. I don't believe you're just bad. I believe there is a presence of both. Yeah. But the bad outweighs it.
I think it's the example you put, the devil on the shoulder. Because I think the devil, I mean, in this case, evil on the shoulder.
Right.
We're just using different words.
Yeah.
I think you guys get it.
Yeah.
But evil on the shoulder, I think evil represents like our innate desires or suppressed desires.
Yes.
So why is our innate desires associated with the bad and evil side? Why?
Because I think it represents, our innate desires are most of the time intrinsically selfish. It's stuff we truly desire to do, and we define selfishness with evil. We're supposed to prioritize other human life over ourselves. So anything that is intrinsically for reef is evil.
Right.
So why with other animals don't we look at that same way as evil? Why is it only in a human's space? Because most animals will get on a selfish level because they're all trying to prioritizing selfishness. They're trying to survive. And at the end of the day, if you put us, three of us into a state where we're looking just to survive, at a point we're really gonna be like, yo, bro, I need to survive. Like, you're trying to save you at the end of the day. And other animals do the same. So why is it considered the bad and evil side to go back to your animal instincts, quote unquote? Why is that bad?
Let me make sure I'm understanding the question first, and then I want to take a crack at it.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you saying why do we not consider animals to be evil? Is that what you're essentially asking?
Off the same logic, when we consider this primal, if you will, way to be evil. But other animals why don't we see other animals as evil?
Because we think we're above animals. I think we see ourselves as above that plane, especially when we talk in terms of like our intellectual capabilities. I think we see ourselves above animals. So when we diminish ourselves to that extent, I think we feel like we're associating ourselves with lower life forms. But I don't think we can consider animals to be evil because besides having to feed themselves, there is no malice or ill intent. It's the example that we brought up. Like a lion, for example, it's going to kill you in that moment because it has to feed itself. But after that, it's good.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
let's
it's not gonna go around
let's take a
just
look at the human.
human.
The
just to
human
do it.
will
Right.
take the lion, breed it, kill the lion, kill the we'll set up a whole
Sell the
ecosystem.
children.
Yeah, we'll set up a whole system where we can benefit for our future sustenance. So
Right, right.
we'll go, hey, if I can control this entire lion, I will never go hungry.
I can use this as defense.
I can use
too.
this as and stuff like that. So
It's deep.
it is.
Yeah.
And like I said, as a human being, I understand why we would do that.
Right.
We're looking for the future. Hey, man, if I can ensure a food source for years to come, I'll be good. So I get that. But when we talk in terms of like ethics and we put empathy in there, and then we're like, dang, like that whole species existence is for us, and that was like the dogs were slaves, and that's how it came back. So I don't know if we're necessarily. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's so tough to say, hey, are we evil or good? And that's where the state of nature discussion, it's so complex because you literally have to go, hey, do I believe human beings in our essence? Are we good or are we bad? Because that dictates how we'll act in a state of nature.
Right.
So then, what will
Right.
we define? I guess I could ask this to be because I asked you it. What will be the good? What are what do we consider good of human beings?
Well, Kropotkin, he would say it's our compassion. He say he thinks, famous philosopher Kropotkin, he thinks we would be great in a state of nature because we are compassionate beings. We naturally want to share and we naturally care for the person next to us, and we wouldn't want to hurt the person next to us and things like that. So it's all your belief.
Okay.
You know, but
it is all your belief.
Yeah, it is.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, it is all in your belief.
Yeah.
Because I'm of the opposite, like the exact opposite. Of the exact opposite. I believe humans are born sinful. You know what I mean? Because the world is sinful. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's because we are redeemed. So like that's the redemption factor. It's like your life is redemption almost, like from beginning to end. You know what I mean? Like that's my belief. I believe we are born into sin. So it's like natural. That's why the baby is crying. You know what I mean? Not to get religious, but like
it's coming.
It's
with
known
sin,
that
essentially.
when Jesus was born, he was chilling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was He was like one of those babies that's bugging out, crying. Oh, you know what I mean? He was still.
He was calm, steady.
Yeah, he was still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like.
So he came in sinless.
Exactly. So like that's the special thing about it. But I just feel like I'm of the belief that like human beings are. I mean, I feel like I said it like before. We draw. There is presence of both.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you are just naturally
just
bad. Yeah, just bad guy. You know what I mean? Or girl, whatever.
Yeah.
Person. But you're drawn, and you have to have that choice and make that choice.
And I guess similarly, but from a different way of looking at it, if I go off of that, I can see that. And that's what I showed you, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of desire, right? You can't reach, and he has different levels up the pyramid, but you can't reach enlightenment until all these other necessities are fulfilled. Food, shelter, right? And I think food, shelter, water goes into the food part, and I think it's like family, like a community in a sense.
Yeah.
But you can't, until each platform is completed, you can't get higher and higher. And I guess that works in B's belief is that to get to that compassion, to get to sharing, I have to feel like I'm good. I have to fulfill my need of survival. It has to feel complete. I have to feel like I have enough food to share. Right? But I can't share my food if I don't have enough of it.
Right.
Because then I'm going to die. So I have to fulfill myself first before I can be good.
Right.
Because I have to make sure I'm good first.
Right.
I can't. It's like when people say like you just giving away all your money, and then the person's poor. It's because you keep giving it away.
Right.
But it's like you're not taking care of yourself, so you keep giving, and now it's hurting you. Right. And some people that's why some people wait till they have enough so I can keep sharing, and then I won't hurt myself in that process. I can keep sharing and doing good deeds. because I have enough to do that.
Right.
But if I don't have enough, how can I share?
Mm-hmm.
You saw that when we watched the Bamboons, right? The leader ate first. He didn't care about anybody else. Like, I gotta be good first, and then y'all can all eat. Right? But if there was enough food to go around, would that be a different conversation? But it's the fact that they don't know if there's gonna ever be more food available. So I gotta eat first because I'm the one who's protecting all this. Then you can eat. It's like a line to it. But if food was in abundance, it's different. I can sit here and say, "Yo, eat up all you can." If I have the money for that, if I have enough food in the crib, right? If I have enough food in the crib, I wouldn't just offer, "Yo, bro, you trying to eat? I don't have enough food. I'm not gonna eat them all."
Right.
So I think off of like even with my looking at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, until you complete the evil, I guess, the pride, the self, like I need to fulfill self pleasures first. Then you can.
So then, technically, it ties back into what I was saying earlier. Do we equate selfishness with evil?
And that's what I was trying to get from you. I was what is it that you're defining as evil to human beings? What are we saying is?
I guess it would be us having to preserve our own self. Because that's what evil represents. When we're saying like the devil on the shoulder is like
the
suppress
love of yourself.
It's the love of
the
self.
love of yourself, which isn't bad all the time,
evil,
but it can get to another level, and humans tend to tap into that upper level. If
well, we have the greed and we have the hoarding and a lot of stuff we do.
Says the control factor to cap off. Like,
money is not bad. Money is not bad, but the love of money can get out of hand. You know what I'm saying?
And and
but
I
some say money. Some say money is what. Did I cut you off?
No, you go.
Some say money is what would make us have chaos in a state of nature. Some argue that we would be perfectly coexisting in a state of nature, but the introduction of money is what turned us out. They say money is what introduced hoarding, right? If I had 10 apples, right, I would share it with you guys, right? I'm not going to eat 10 apples at once.
Right.
But now if you introduce money, I'm going to keep those 10 apples because I can sell those apples for monetary gain. So some say money is what uprooted us into chaos in a state of nature.
I could agree with that.
So,
I could agree with that.
So you can look at that as well too. I just think if it wasn't money, it was always something else. And that's what I say when I look back at that. When I read the economies back in the day.
We got a minute 45.
What? Wow.
The video is going to cut off in a minute 45.
So I'm going to stop it now.
So we're going to stop it now. That way we can reboot.
That way we can do our thing.
Yeah.
You restarted it?
Yeah.
Alright, I'm
No, so what I was going to say is that I was reading, because I read up on the economies, Wealth of Nations, by the way, and it goes back into the economies of how it worked before money was involved, but essentially it was all bartering at the same time. We always thought of how we can our own gain. How can we keep the security of being good for days to come? We didn't want to just be secure for one day. I want to make sure I'm good for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And it's just that coming up with money allowed it to be an efficient way. But I don't think it was necessarily money that allowed us to start hoarding. It was already thoughts. It just became the physical representation of how I can do it. But I think it was already in, because we're thinking creatures, so I'm sure people probably thought about how can I be good for 2 weeks. Maybe if I do this, it's just money became the tangible way to do it. It just.
So I think through the three of our collective thoughts, we keep proving in which we are naturally evil, because even if we are hoarding for future gain, that is technically prioritizing self.
Yes.
And if we quit prioritizing self,
I don't think that's evil.
I don't think it's evil either.
I agree.
What I think
so
is
then how
evil.
do we say humans, what's the basis?
Listen, so for me, what I think evil is the fact of, like I said, and it be mentioned, to the extent of what we do, right? It's the fact that, like I mentioned earlier in the video, that we'll shoot a bird for that is evil. There's absolutely no reason to do it. And you're taking your life just for target practice.
Your desire to
when people, I don't want to get too deep into because this is a touchy subject, and I don't want to bring this up and trigger anything. So disclaimer here. But when I'm watching certain videos and stuff, and I'm reading about rape, I'm like, bro, this that is evil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, those are evil acts that in history we've done as a norm. You know, like that's when I say that's the evil aspect, when it's like, how do you do these things and just not even care, no empathy, no compassion for the other side? Like, that to me is evil, not the fact that we fulfill self-pleasure, because that's natural. Every creature does that. But to the extent of you're not thinking about what it's doing to the other person, the other species, right? We didn't think about what does domesticating dogs do. Like creating domesticating wolves, because that's what all dogs are, and creating dogs, what does that do? Right? When slavery was a thing, people weren't thinking about, what am I doing to families, just ripping them? And that, to me, when I see those acts, I'm like, that is the definition of evil. And no other animal does that. Like I said, no other animal comes up to you, just smacks you around, holds you prisoner just because. Like, those are acts that
does tests on you and
and
experiments.
That to me is evil. And it seems to me that when we get back to a primal nature, and I can't even say a primal nature because people still do this stuff now.
But is it evil because as a human species, you're technically prioritizing self?
That is evil, because what you're doing,
Not the obviously rape is evil. I'm saying like towards your humanity.
you're not prioritizing self, right? You can prioritize self in a different way, right? You don't have to do the things you do to prioritize yourself. That's not.
Now what you're doing when it gets to evil, you're prioritizing self gratification, rather than self preservation. I guess, right? Now, when it gets into that, we got a problem. You know what I mean? It's the lust of the flesh. Just for lack of a better word, lust of the flesh. It's like, I've gotten what I need. I need more. Just because I want it.
Just because.
Exactly. The self gratification, and that's when it becomes a problem. And could turn into the utmost evil stuff.
And it's sick what people do. And that's when I'm like, yo, like, we are such. From what we know, we are thinking creatures. We are advanced. Like. Stuff like this, you know, like we have the ability to consider another person. And I guess, like B said, there's always the choice. It's always in you. It's always in you. So are we inherently good or evil? For me, I don't really know. Like, I think...
There's no right or wrong answer. Y'all know that.
I think you're kind of here, and then every day you're faced with choices. And from there, you start sliding to evil. Absolutely. You start sliding to this good side. But
it's also what
choices.
Experiences you're fed, what environment you're placed in, all those different things. And that's why I said I can't say we're naturally on one side or the other. I kind of think we're neutral. Like you're saying, I think we're neutral because I think it's a choice. I think we all have the choice to decide what kind of human being we want to be, how we want to treat people. Because I'll be so honest. I'm not saying I was a bad person, but I've had to teach myself, and I'm still learning how to technically be a good person, right? A big problem I had with myself is I knew I was naturally selfish. Anybody who knows me knows I can vouch. I was always very selfish, and I had to. All right, I got to be more selfless. I got to practice giving, but I had to learn that behavior to be somewhat of a better person. So when you said, "Hey, I think we can be a little bit naturally bad in a sense or evil," and I'm not saying I'm evil or bad. It's just, could I have been better? Yeah, but I had to teach myself, and I had to be taught how to be better. Absolutely. So that's why I say I think it is. I like your point. I think we can say, hey, I think some of us are in a neutral state, and we learn. We say racism isn't. You're not born racist. You learn to be a racist. Stuff like that. You know, you don't just hate people when you come out the womb. You learn to hate. Those are learned behaviors. So I don't know, man. I can't pick a side. And
I know. I'm over here talking like,
the more we talk, I'm like, well, I see the evil, and then I'm like, well, I see the good.
I have a thought too, by the way.
Go ahead. No, jump in.
Oh, you do it.
Yeah.
So, and you saying it triggered it, and I didn't want to forget it. But when you said I had to learn to be good, and you mentioned this before, but do we have to learn to be evil? Right? We have to constantly learn to be good, but do we have to learn to be evil?
That's a great.
Because I don't think I have to learn to be
no,
evil.
you do not. I mean, no.
I'm honestly thinking about it. I'm like,
I don't think so.
I don't think I have to learn to be a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, because we just said in the case of like racist and those things, you're learning to be what in society we would call a bad person, or at least from our points of views. That's technically you're learning, to emulate bad behavior and stuff like that. But I get what you're saying. Most situations, I totally agree. You have to learn how to be a better person. Like we were saying, hold the door for somebody who's behind you. Speak to people when you see them. Stuff. Wait, you learn all those different things. So we have to assume, hey, if we weren't taught these things, then where would we be?
So look, and what I say to that, you make a good point, but now I throw out this part of like, for example, when we say, kids are so blunt, kids just say things that just...
Yeah, your breath stinks.
Your breath stinks.
Fat.
And in that moment, they're not trying to be good or bad. They're just saying what it is that's on their mind.
Absolute
but
truth.
think about that. But it's not absolute truth. It's because absolute truth is
them.
To them.
Yeah.
Again, right? So in that moment, though you're saying your breath stinks, in that moment you're not considering what the other person's
feeling.
Right? So you have to learn to say it in a way that... But you didn't have to learn to just say your breath stinks. Right. You just said what it is that came to your mind and how you felt in that moment. And that's what I'm saying. Do you have to learn to be bad, quote unquote, because you will innately do it.
Yes.
And then somebody teaches you, right? When they say, "Oh, here's the apple," I'll take it from you. Right? If it's just me and you, and I'm like, "Bro," and they're like, "No, share," and I'm like, "No, you're not trying."
No, Omar, there's 2 apples. Give one to give one to.
You're not learning to be that. You're just doing it. Like, and that's what I guess B's saying. Like, instinctively,
you're born in sin, and you learn to repent.
Yes, exactly. You have to learn.
Exactly.
You have to learn. I'm not saying like
you have to learn.
Race and stuff. You can't. Race and stuff. Obviously, there's behaviors that you can learn, but I'm talking about the innate, the bad that we say. You don't have to learn that. I have to learn to be good. I have to learn to hold, hold door open or share my food.
Speak
or
to people, all those
to think
things.
about somebody else's point of view. Like, remember they say, watch what you say, because you never, you have to learn that. Where before you would just do it and not really consider it.
And I have a thought, on what you were saying, great, you explained that beautifully. When you were saying, people, it's a product of your environment, you know what I mean? Not everyone who was brought up in a good home turned out good, you know what I mean? There are some people,
Everybody turned in a bad environment.
Turned out bad.
And I can't tell you, I'm not going to speak to anything that I don't know, but I bet money, if you looked up some of the most notoriously evil people in history, they probably grew up in some good homes. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I will bet any amount of money that I can find someone
all of them
who is who is famously evil or bad, a notoriously bad person.
Yeah.
Probably, it doesn't mean they probably grew up good. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that says something. You know what I mean?
It does. It does say something because I think I know some people that grow up in great homes and don't turn out the best, and you would think hey man, you have a great system in place. How did you end up on this?
How did this happen?
How did this happen?
Goes to show you that it still comes from inside, no matter what.
It's a conscious
being
decision.
taught to you from because you can be taught racism but still reject it. Just because you're receiving it doesn't mean you have to accept it. And not everybody accepts it. Some people sit there like, no, I don't believe in that. I'm not. No matter what they're being taught. So I guess to B's points, and maybe you weren't trying to point it out, but it does still come from the individual, no matter what. No matter what you're taught, no matter what environment you grow into, you grow up in what we call a bad environment, still turn out good, still turn out bad.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point
Yeah.
to me.
It is a great point, and like I said, I can only speak for myself, but I can entertain that theory because I know how my mind works. I think about negative stuff all the time, and I have to stop myself from doing it. It's not that I'm gonna act on it, but it'll just pop up, and I'm like, "That's such a negative thought." Like I said, like I just walk past somebody, like, "Damn, what if I just punch them in the like?"
You're not alone.
And you're like, bro, like,
listen,
why am I thinking like that? No, obviously I can't punch this person in the face. Like, that would be crazy. But imagine if we didn't have to weigh the option of good and bad. You might just, all right, just like punching this person in the face and just do it. So it's like, you kind of have to.
The camera because I'm just gonna love the go.
You kind of have to stop yourself from doing those things. And it's crazy.
It
is a conscious decision. I have 7 minutes.
No, I thought I heard the click.
But it is a conscious decision.
It's totally true. It's like people make jokes on Twitter all the time. You know what I mean? But like one thing that it's funny, but like it relates to what we're saying. It's like you could be driving and be like, what if I just drove off the road right now?
What if I just drove off the road?
It's like, what if I just
crashed right into a car? Right?
What if I just did that? And that's kind of
somebody crossing the street. What if I didn't stop at the stop sign?
Right.
You're like, no, bro. That's such an evil thought.
That's such an evil thought, dude. Everyone, I know everyone has had that.
No, what if I'm standing on the balcony? What if I throw me off the balcony right now?
I jumped off this right now.
I'm so serious. I'm just thinking about it like, what if I just jumped off this? You know, like you said, like you standing next to me. What if I just
threw me off this?
I'm like, yo, bro, what are you?
Exactly. It's like you don't want to do that.
Yeah. You can't even stop yourself from thinking that.
It happens. Like.
No, you serious? I'm like, what if I just ran this red light right now?
Right, like,
what if I just forget this? And
it's crazy, man.
It pops up, and
it's crazy.
So if we go off the framework we just laid, then I can say we are naturally evil.
Yeah. Or naturally
gravitate towards negativity. And it's a constant fight.
Yes.
Because like we said, we have the thoughts.
And I think
you have to go, yo, I'm not going to jump off this balcony. I'm not going to crash my car into this. Like, you have to go, nah, that's a crazy thought.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
The what we call the negativity is hard, and I think it transitions back into, they say the force of good and evil. Like how powerful negativity feels. It's so strong, it's so aggressive, right? When we talk about good, it's so peace, it's so calming, it's so relaxed. And I think that's why it's harder, because why we gravitate towards negativity, why we gravitate towards doubts, is because it's so strong, it's
hard to
fierce.
ignore.
You know, when you think of negativity, you think of like this fire, this burning like it's, and maybe that's just images that we're transitioned to think of, but like we think of negativity feels so fierce, and that's why it's easy to gravitate towards, because it feels so strong. Where a lot of times you'll see, like in the Jedi, even Star Wars,
I was just thinking about Star Wars.
I was just thinking about it's so much calming. It's this peace, and it's harder to get behind that because it's not such a like powerful feeling. And I think that's why we naturally will gravitate towards the negativity.
Can I? Okay.
That was
take it over.
Okay. We don't open up the Star Wars.
Yeah. Go for it,
bro. This is
that was perfect.
A beautiful segue into some Star Wars talk. Stop playing. But that is the story of what we're talking about. Essentially, just in a shorter version, later on in movie form. But in The Last Jedi, if you haven't seen it, Star Wars The Last Jedi.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it.
Disclaimer.
Sorry.
Stop watching.
It's like the third disclaimer.
Stop watching.
Star Wars Episode 8, I believe, technically, of the new trilogy, The Last Jedi. Luke, old Luke, is training Rey. He puts her on the rock, tells her to feel. What do you feel? I feel light. I feel the air. I feel all peaceful things. She then starts to describe, I see something dark. I see chaos. And she sees a dark hole. And she starts to tell Luke, it's pulling me, it's pulling me, it's pulling me. It's gravitating. And then she starts to lose control. And Luke had to stop her, and immediately, you remember?
Yes.
And Luke immediately is like, you went straight to the dark.
Yeah.
And that was his fear. Because his last pupil, he was trying to teach him how to be a Jedi, but he gravitated towards the dark. the dark side.
Same thing with Anakin,
Yes.
man.
Same thing with
Same
Anakin.
thing with Anakin. That
Same
dark
thing with
side
Anakin,
is too...
It pulls at you.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's
strong.
just...
It's
It's
Damn.
strong. And at first, it's appealing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's just... It's
So much
gratifies you.
power.
So much power.
Yeah.
Yes. But...
Yeah, like when Anakin got, he's like, I'm stronger than I ever
Yeah.
would have been if I was a Jedi.
Yeah. And he just wanted more.
Just wanted
and
more.
and more.
It consumes you.
yeah.
It consumes you.
That's why it's so easy to grab. It's
It's deep.
That is deep.
it's like even when we talk about with in Spider-Man 3, Peter Parker when Venom got on.
Venom got on.
And it's just-
He walked
you
around.
just-
He walked. Yo,
Oh,
nah,
what's
you,
name?
I gotta give you
Oh,
that.
my
I gotta give you that one, boy.
Yes.
Yeah,
But
it's too raw.
It just sucks you. It's like, bro, like
Even with Eddie Brock,
yes,
when
bro,
he gets in that joint, he's
it's
like,
hard.
I
It's
can't give
The
this
power,
up.
it feels good. It's
Yeah,
like,
it feels too good.
yeah, and that's what usually happens.
Wow.
And that's why it's harder to gravitate towards good. Like you really have to learn it.
yeah. And you have to fight.
Like, but look,
It's a
you
fight.
really have to teach them. Like, so it's you really have to fight it.
You really have to fight.
To B's point,
Mm-hmm.
that's why he thinks we gravitate because you really
Bro,
have
we
to
naturally
fight.
evil, bro.
Right.
That's what we
That's
come.
honestly
That's what we coming to
I
right now.
know we said that there's no right answer.
But damn,
We're right.
right?
Yeah.
Especially with this last 5 minutes, like,
It's all
jeez.
leading to
This
that.
stretch was crazy, but that's what it made me think of. I'm like, bro,
Damn.
like, I see why we do gravitate toward negativity.
Yeah.
Because it's so powerful, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so much harder to be
naturally
positive.
you will naturally
So much
get sucked
harder.
into it. Naturally. Naturally.
Wow. So if we were in a state of nature,
And it's hard
we
'cause we
wouldn't
have
be able
egos.
to control ourselves from.
I don't think so.
Imagine if there was nobody teaching you to control. How
So
Yes.
we would need state, we would need government because that's where we learn the conditioning. Like you were saying, you learn laws, rules, regulations,
Yeah.
right from wrong, good from bad. But if you wipe all of that and you're left to the innate negativity,
Yeah.
It would.
It's there's nothing to stop you from getting to that point. Like there has to be something that can bring you back.
Yes.
And I think that's my belief. I think that's ultimately, but does it get carried out that way all the time? No, but I think that's what like religions and governments and all of it goes to. It's trying to, that's the idea of it.
have another one.
Sometimes it doesn't, I guess.
I have another one.
Yeah.
The Purge. If you're given a day,
Oh my gosh! Yes.
if you're given a day where you take away all consequences,
What was the first thing people did?
Yeah.
I'm
they
killing
started
my neighbor.
murdering, bro.
They start murdering
Yo, be
everybody.
dying, my boss. I'm.
Yeah.
Are you kidding
You
me?
remember
Yes.
the day where you can take away? That's one night.
You remember
bro.
when you denied me?
And they went crazy.
One,
Some-
no
not everybody, but
consequences.
some- Yeah.
You could do everything. All crime is legal.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, bro, I'm going ham.
I honestly believe that it would be obviously these things are also movies and stuff,
Yeah.
so to a fuller extent. But I
Yeah.
honestly believe that bro, stealing all that's coming through immediately.
Absolutely.
I
100%.
once again, that was the old one.
Nah, this is for this. We got 9 minutes. It was 20 minutes, so 9 minutes before.
I was about to say another.
Nah, it's been 20 minutes, so let me do 9 minutes. For those of you, by the way, when you record videos, apparently most cameras you can only record for about a half hour or it cuts
I
off.
was
So
about to say.
we set the timer for a half hour, about
This is my
29
man.
minutes, so
Yeah, I
we
love
know
this,
when it's
yes.
gonna,
When let go.
cut off.
Yeah.
But yeah, get your thoughts. You said stealing would go through.
No, I genuinely think that because once again, you're gonna get sucked. You're gonna
Right, you like you get cozy for the next,
you're gonna get sucked into that power is so strong, bro. You really have to. It's like what I like, even with D is that you really have to. It takes time to be positive. It takes effort to be better. It genuinely does because it is effort.
Yeah.
It is effort to try to avoid something that's such a strong force. It takes power, willpower to really sit there and be like, no, bro, because it's like when you're positive. Are you always positive all the time? No, those thoughts are always there.
Always.
No matter where you are in your life, no matter how much you believe in yourself, it's there. You just eventually strengthen yourself to a point where you can push it away.
Exactly.
But it's always there, and that's just how it is. Like it takes effort, and without if you let just people go, I think without the control in some way, shape, or form, or somebody that can help you get out of that, you will go to that place.
Yeah.
It's powerful, bro. It's
But-
captivating. You'll be like, and then we have egos, so it'll feed it. It'll be like, bro, like, you can have all the you can have this. Doesn't have to be this way. No, they hurt you. You should hurt. Like it will take it over for you. But yeah, man, that's so.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just how I feel coming off of that. Like that's why you see in Purge. Like I think it just shows you that we just
our true nature.
Yeah.
And that's what it stands back to. What we were saying, like innate nature is always the. It's always attached to evil or sinister actions. When we always say, "Well, that's just human nature." Like Purge, they say that is our true nature. If you took away all, like a lot of people say, "Yo, if there was no repercussions for crime, we would do all types of things because we can't get in trouble." So it's the order, like you were saying, it's the order that keeps us in check.
Yeah. So I don't think my conclusion at this point of the conversation, obviously,
I mean, it
is
could be a
changing
perfect
throughout.
time to.
So
Yeah.
my conclusion I think is that we're not inherently either or, but that drive is so strong that we'll gravitate towards that more. I'm on the belief that we're blend, but we gravitate towards the evil more.
Yeah.
But we aren't inherently evil. It's just that force is so strong without something to guide you or to help bring you control so you don't get there. You will easily succumb to that.
Right.
Succumb to that.
Right.
I do think that without some type of structure or some way, shape, or form, we will lean towards being evil easier because it's just such a, like I said, captivating force. Is so powerful, and I think we'll lean it because it's just easier to just let it go into that, where it's harder. It's much more difficult to be compassionate, to think about others, to share. It's just harder. So I just think we'll lean towards that place way more often if we went back to nature. And it's shown in history over and over again that we lean towards this side of the spectrum more than we do this side. And I can understand why we do because of the difficulty.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll wrap with I agree. I don't want to attach myself to either or, so I won't say we're naturally evil. I won't say we're naturally good, and I won't say we'll be subjected to chaos without being in a state of nature. But I do think it would be up to us. We'd have to make the conscious decisions to not succumb to negativity and darkness, like you said. But I do think we need a governing body to keep humanity itself in check. Because like even in a state of nature, you see, like I was saying, civilizations, you have a leader, you have rules. Like we end up doing that anyway to check our own nature. Stealing is wrong, all these different things. So we always create rules in place to keep us away from the dark side. So I think it's naturally easier for us to succumb to the darkness, but I think we need a governing body or some structure to save us from ourselves.
Right.
Because even like with parents, like if you don't have no order in your household, your children will run amok unless you just have a naturally pure child that just will just be a great person. But most children, they don't got no order, they don't got no parent telling them what to do, no discipline. Man, I'm gonna be out here, I'm gonna be doing whatever I want.
Yeah.
And it's easy to succumb to the streets, to the darkness, to the lifestyle. So I think we need something to keep us in check and to save us from ourselves. Some form of authority. And this is coming from somebody who hates authority. So this is tough. This is tough for me to admit it. But if you know me, I hate authority. But I think you would need some sort of authority to keep humanity in check from itself. So
absolutely,
that's my take. And take us home, B. Take us home.
I wholeheartedly agree with what both you guys said. I would word it the way Omar did, just like in the way that you're not, you can't like label you like good or evil when you're born, but the power of the dark side is to our human nature. It's more powerful, even though good is more powerful in essence.
Yes.
In itself, good is more powerful. It's just because of who we are as humans, the pull is more. We are pulled towards the dark side, but we have to like push towards good.
Yeah.
That's the way I put it. You know what I mean? Human nature, you have to push towards the good side. You're pulled towards the bad side. You know what I mean? And it's easier to be pulled, way easier to be pulled. But if you're pushing, it's harder. But once you get there, it's better. You know what I mean?
Push and pull now.
Makes sense.
That's even
that makes sense.
Pulling something is easier than pushing something.
Yeah.
Right. So
Wow.
I'm just gonna leave it at that because I don't know what
Being
else to
pulled
say.
is definitely
But
easier
I
than pushing.
feel like So that I'm gonna leave it at that.
That's
how I
perfect. Yo, this was
Yeah.
dope.
I think these questions of the days are dope,
Yo,
bro. It just gets your mind
I'm
just
glad
like.
y'all vibe with it, bro.
For sure.
I like it,
This
bro.
is awesome.
I'm glad y'all vibe with it. I hope y'all vibed with it. And again, like I said it in the last video, but this is what I want the questions of the days to be like. The level of thought and realizations we've come to in the past. I don't know how long it's been, but I've been mind blown a lot throughout this conversation, and it started in one direction, went in so many different directions, but it found its way back.
Yeah.
And we've went through so many ups and downs throughout this journey of conversation that I love it. And at the end of the day, you see, we came back to there is no right or wrong answer, right? We see all the different ways that it could go. Hey, no, the argument could be made that we're naturally good, or the argument could be made that we're naturally evil. We're not going to pick a side, but let's explore all the different complexities to the question. And that's what the question of the day is for, man. There is no right or wrong answer. It's all perspective, and we can all learn from one another. And I definitely learned from this conversation.
Me too.
Me too.
I was saying some gems. I'm like,
like,
needed.
I gotta write this down.
Like, wait, I'm sitting here like, wait, so this leads to this. So I think that was a perfect way to wrap it. I'm glad you took us home with that, because that's deep. And I think this is going to be a fun conversation for a lot of people to have. Like, I'm excited for people to have this conversation within their own friend groups and everything like that. And just stay tuned for more, man. So on that note, we out, man.
We out.
Yo.
Good combo. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
And also, I'm curious to see y'all beliefs too. Like, I want to see. So throw out what you think. I'm interested to see perspectives. Like, you know, Reef hasn't mentioned it, but like we said on the last video, in philosophy class, a lot of times it's just people throwing out beliefs, and you sit there like how we did and be like, oh, it could be that. So I'm interested to see what y'all think. So yeah, share it with y'all friends too, and then also share it in the comments and just, you know, start some conversation up. I like it. So
For sure.
that's why I want that in there.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Deuces. Damn. That was perfect.
Yeah,
I like how you did it.
Yeah.
You did it. Oh my god. Yes.
I feel like we should do a blooper video though, just to match the other one. Oh, I had to pee so bad, bro. I'm glad we wrapped. I was like, bro.